Hi there, Sketchy White Dude here. This is just a brief video response to Orygyn's video where he puts forward a hypothetical question on whether or not you would either inject what we would consider a virtue into your brain by synthetic means or remove what we would consider to be a vice. From the very get-go, we have kind of a shaky premise. So the real question is, what is a vice? What is a virtue? Who determines this? Is there an objective morality? These are very deep and difficult philosophical questions, and any two people in a room are not going to agree 100% on this topic. That being said, look at what we would consider a virtue in America or a vice versus in Saudi Arabia or Uganda. Culturally, there's a lot of differences in what we would consider moral or immoral behavior. If you look at two human beings in the same culture, in the same town, with the same upbringing, these two people are going to have some differences in what they consider a vice and what they consider a virtue. When you look at things in terms of the lens of time, take for a case in point the Greek civilization in the classical era. They're considered by most to be the most advanced culture of that era, and probably the most progressive as well. Yet, they were perfectly okay as a society with grown men having sexual intercourse with young boys. In Western civilization, we would consider that to be abhorrent today, thousands of years later. So these concepts, even within the same framework of thought, are plastic over time and between individuals. So within myself, I'm an apostate Christian. So if I had the ability to instill by hardwiring virtues into myself and remove vices, where would I be today? Would I be an apostate? Would I have been able to critically examine my beliefs and reevaluate them at all? Or would I have considered my skepticism to be a vice and removed it? Now, this is a philosophical question that greater minds than I have already tread before. This immediately reminded me of Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch, the Superman, transcending our normal human self to become greater, to supersede it entirely. Now, Nietzsche wrote, "Convictions are more dangerous enemies of truth than lies." Think about that. If you're a fundamentalist religious person or a social justice warrior who believes in social Marxism, if you make these virtues that you've taken on board, these convictions that should certainly be plastic as we observe more about the world and our worldview expands, if you hardwire them, does that not completely arrest development of the individual? And if we instituted such a policy across our civilization, say as a method of rehabilitation, would that not arrest our entire species? Would we not cease to evolve? Are we removing those hardships that push us into evolutionary paths in the first place? Now, to answer your question on a personal level, would I partake of such a service? Assuming that technology was available, well understood, there were no to minimal side effects somewhere in that range where we consider it safe enough to do. Would I partake? Would I change my brain to eliminate some vice I dislike? Or would I instill myself with some new virtue that I'm currently incapable of? No, absolutely not. I think that it is a virtue in itself to recognize our shortcomings and to overcome them. That changes our character. That forces us to improve in ways we didn't even know we needed to. It strengthens our resolve in other areas. It changes the way we look at things. It gives us empathy towards other people who may have the same shortcomings as us, and we dislike that in them in the same way that we dislike it in ourselves. There are a whole lot of things tied to that concept of self-improvement, self-betterment, that we can't necessarily disassociate. In closing, I would consider what Nietzsche said in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, when he said, "Be careful in casting out your demons, lest you exercise the best thing in you."